Jungkook used to think love was loud. Fireworks. Grand gestures. Passion that burned like summer heat. But with Taehyung, love was quiet. It was the way he brewed Jungkook's coffee exactly how he liked it. The way his arm dripped over Jungkook's waist at night like a silent vow. The way he kissed his forehead when he thought Jungkook was asleep. It felt safe. It felt like home. And so, Jungkook gave all of him. Every soft thought, every vulnerable tear, every scar on his soul. Taehyung kissed and promised he'd never reopen. But homes can burn down too. It started small. A laugh at a message Taehyung wouldn't show him. A notification flipped down too fast. A girl's name Jungkook didn't recognize, saved with an emoji. "You're being insecure," Taehyung said. "You know I love you." Jungkook believed him. Or maybe he wanted to. But lies have a scent. A slow, souring bitterness that taints everything you once trusted. And Taehyung had begun to smell like secrets. He cleared his chat history before Jungkook ever saw it. Started sleeping with his phone under the pillow. Kept smiling like nothing was wrong. But Jungkook wasn't stupid, he just loved too much. And that was the problem. Because love can't survive when one person is choosing loyalty, and the other is choosing curiosity. "Is there someone else?" Jungkook asked one night. Taehyung froze. "No," he said. Too quickly. Jungkook swallowed the lump in his throat. "Then why do you feel so far away even when you're right here?" Taehyung turned away, his silence louder than any confession. That night, Jungkook lay in bed while Taehyung scrolled through his phone, screen tilted away. He heard the faint buzz of messages coming in. Saw the way Taehyung smiled at them, not like he smiled at Jungkook anymore. He didn't cry that night. But he knew. Deep down, he knew. It wasn't about a kiss. It wasn't about sex. It was about choosing attention that didn't belong to him. And Taehyung, he had already crossed that line. There's a silence that feels peaceful. And then there's a silence that feels like a warning. Theirs had become the second kind. Jungkook stirred the soup on the stove, the gentle simmer rising with the scent of seaweed and miso. He'd made Taehyung's favorite, just like he did every Friday when Taehyung came home from work later than usual. Except tonight, Taehyung wasn't late. He hadn't said he'd be. He just wasn't there. Again. Jungkook glanced at the time on the microwave. 10:47 p.m. The soup had already gone cold. His messages were still unread. His calls had been ignored. But his Instagram story had been updated. Taehyung. At a lounge bar. Someone's hand beside his. A woman's laugh caught in the background. The caption, chilling. "Don't wait up," and that was the first real lie. Not the first message Taehyung had hidden. Not the second time he changed his password. Not even the third time he brushed off Jungkook's questions. But the first time he told Jungkook not to wait. The first time he said, without saying, "You are no longer my priority tonight," the front door clicked open sometime past midnight. Jungkook didn't turn to look. He stayed curled on the couch, the TV playing quietly. He couldn't remember what he'd been watching. His eyes were dry, but his heart wasn't. "Hey," Taehyung greeted casually, throwing his jacket over the back of a chair. He smelled like expensive cologne and something else, perfume that didn't belong to Jungkook. "You didn't answer my calls," Jungkook said quietly. Taehyung ran a hand through his hair. "I was busy. I didn't think it was urgent." "You're out with someone. And I'm here, waiting, worried." Jungkook looked at him then, Gaze steady. Is that not urgent enough? Taehyung sighed. Why are you always like this lately? Like what, clingy? Insecure? Jungkook froze. There it was. Not an apology. Not reassurance. Just blame. I just want to know where I stand. Taehyung, you stand right here, he replied, walking over, pressing a kiss to Jungkook's forehead like that would fix the cracks in his heart. With me. Jungkook didn't close his eyes. Didn't lean into it. Then why does it feel like I'm the only one fighting for this? Taehyung didn't answer. He never did, when the truth might betray the story he was trying to sell. He just walked into the bedroom and shut the door behind him, leaving Jungkook on the couch, holding the pieces of a promise that wasn't just breaking anymore. It was shattering. Jungkook stared at the phone lying face down on the nightstand. It had buzzed. Twice. He didn't reach for it. It wasn't his. But it used to be something he could hold, even just to pass it to Taehyung. They used to share playlists, memes, little moments during dinner. The passcode used to be Jungkook's birthday. Now? It had changed. Again. Taehyung had gotten up earlier than usual that morning. Showered quickly. Dressed in something Jungkook hadn't seen him wear in weeks, a black button-up tucked perfectly into fitted slacks, rings on his fingers, cologne that smelled a little stronger than necessary. Where are you going? Jungkook had asked, brushing sleep from his eyes. Taehyung kissed the top of his head. Just a meeting. You didn't mention one last night, came up late. You were already asleep. Another lie. Jungkook had been awake all night. Taehyung had fallen asleep texting someone, screen glowing softly, the corners of his lips twitching with half smiles in the dark. Now, Jungkook sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the empty space beside him, and wondering, how many lies did it take before a person stopped feeling them? He got up, reached for the phone, not to snoop, not to betray trust, but just to hand it over. To feel some form of normalcy. But his fingers froze above the screen. He tried the passcode. His birthday. Their anniversary. Taehyung's old passcode. The default. All wrong. He had changed it again. And he hadn't told Jungkook. That said more than any message hidden behind the lock screen ever could. Jungkook's chest felt tight. Not from anger, but from grief. He was grieving someone who was still alive, still in the house, still sharing a bed with him. But somehow, Taehyung felt farther away than strangers on the street. He walked into the kitchen. The silence there was even louder. The photo on the fridge, a candid from last spring, when they'd gone to Jeju, caught his eye. Taehyung had kissed his cheek in it, and Jungkook had blushed so hard the tips of his ears turned red. He remembered how tightly Taehyung had held his hand back then. Like he was afraid to lose him. Now, he held his phone tighter. Later that night, Taehyung came home smelling of something expensive and unfamiliar again. His eyes were tired. His voice was soft. Long day, he muttered. Jungkook didn't say anything. He was cutting strawberries, quiet, focused. Taehyung leaned on the counter. You're upset? I'm thinking about what Jungkook looked up. You changed your passcode again. Taehyung stiffened. Is that what this is about? No, Jungkook said, voice steady. It's about everything else that came before it. The late nights. The new perfume. The laughing at texts you won't show me. The cold bed. The lies that are now too small for you to notice, but too big for me to ignore. Taehyung rubbed his jaw. I'm not cheating, Jungkook, but you're not loyal either. The silence that followed wasn't defensive. It wasn't apologetic. It was empty. And that emptiness said more than Taehyung's lips ever could. Jungkook hadn't meant to see the screen. He wasn't searching. He didn't need to. It just lit up. He was walking past the dining table where Taehyung had carelessly left his phone. And like fate had decided that secrets had overstayed their welcome, the notification flashed without warning. Yeonwoo last night was perfect, can't stop thinking about it. Jungkook's breath hitched in his throat. He stopped mid-step. His stomach twisted painfully, a storm of disbelief and confirmation swirling in one sharp, cutting second. Yeonwoo? He didn't know her. But the kiss emoji beside her name said enough. The message said more. Last night? Taehyung had come home at 2 a.m. last night. Said he'd stayed behind for work. Told Jungkook not to wait up. He lied. Again. The lock screened him before Jungkook could read more, but it didn't matter. The damage had already been done. His hands trembled. His heart didn't just ache this time, it fractured. When Taehyung walked through the door an hour later, Jungkook was sitting on the couch. Waiting. Silent. Taehyung kicked off his shoes lazily, loosened his tie, and walked in like nothing was burning. "Hey," he said, half smiling. "You didn't eat yet?" Jungkook looked up slowly, voice calm, but hollow. "Who's Yeonwoo?" Taehyung froze. What? Jungkook repeated it, this time quieter, like his heart couldn't take hearing her name again. "Who is she?" Taehyung licked his lips, looked away, scratched the back of his neck. "She's someone from the client team. We were just out drinking. It was harmless. Last night was perfect," Jungkook quoted, his voice cracking. "Can't stop thinking about it." "That doesn't sound harmless." "It was a joke," Taehyung said quickly. "She was drunk." "I didn't even reply." "But you didn't stop her either," Jungkook said. "And you didn't tell her you were taken." Taehyung's silence was too loud. Jungkook's voice trembled as he continued. "Do you even tell people you're in a relationship?" "Of course I do." "Then why does it feel like I'm the only one who knows we're together?" Taehyung's face hardened. "You're overreacting." Jungkook stood up. His voice, no longer pleading, just tired. So tired. "No. I'm finally seeing things for what they are." Taehyung walked closer, reaching for his arm. "Kook, come on. Don't make this into something it's not." Jungkook stepped back. "I didn't make this." "You did. With every message you didn't delete fast enough. Every call you answered in the other room. Every girl you let flirt with you while I sat at home wondering why the man I love doesn't come home with honesty anymore." Taehyung's eyes flickered with something. Guilt? Shame? Annoyance? Jungkook couldn't tell anymore. He walked past him, brushing his shoulder. "I'm sleeping in the other room tonight." "Jungkook, don't," he whispered. "Not unless you're going to tell me the truth." But Taehyung didn't follow. Didn't say a word. And that silence? It was louder than Yeonwoo's text could ever be.